My name is Sifuna Msenya Stella, in charge of communication Mtetezi. We are here today, 21st March 2026, for a press statement. From negligence to death, Nairobi's building collapse crisis is a governance failure, not an accident. Mtetezi, the grassroots economic justice movement, expresses deep sorrow, outrage, and solidarity with the victims' families, workers, and residents affected by the latest building collapse here in Westlands, where this 22-story building under construction partially collapsed days ago, leaving at least one worker dead and others trapped or rescued. This tragedy came only days after the Shauri Moyo collapse of March 16, 2026, which killed 4 people and follows other recent incidents, including the South Sea collapse in January 2026 and the current collapse on January 11, 2026, where 2 workers died. These are not isolated accidents. They are evidence of a city trapped in a circle of impunity, weak regulation, ignored warnings, and public institutions that too often react after lives are lost or instead of preventing disaster before it strikes. We have seen reports written, tabled, filed away and forgotten until the next collapse, the next funeral, and the next round of empty promises. Mtetezi says this cycle must end. The core issues are now painfully clear. First, there is manipulation of site conditions and planning information to justify developments that should never have been approved in the form they take. Second, there are irregular and unlawful approvals, including cases where proper technical scrutiny appears incomplete or compromised. Third, there is gross zoning, non-compliance, and unlawful destruction that puts too much pressure on land, infrastructure, and safety systems. Fourth, there are violations of setback, ventilation, privacy, and public health requirements, which are not cosmetic rules but part of the safety architecture of an urban area. Fifth, and most dangerously, there is enforcement failure. Notices are issued, red flags are raised, but works continue. A stop order does not stop anything is not enforcement. Advocation that does not halt construction is not accountability. Mtetezi therefore calls for immediate accountability from all relevant offices. The Nairobi County Governor Johnson Sakaja must publicly release the approval, inspection, and enforcement history for the latest collapsed building and other major collapse sites. The county departments responsible for planning, development, control, and enforcement must disclose which high-risk buildings in Nairobi are currently under dispute, notice, or investigation. The National Construction Authority, Engineers Board of Kenya, and Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors must identify the professionals linked to recent collapses and confirm whether disciplinary action has begun. The ministry responsible for housing, public works, and urban development must treat this as a national urban safety crisis, while Parliament, the Senate, and the Nairobi County Assembly should hold urgent public hearings on illegal approvals, enforcement failure, and professional negligence in the building sector. The Director of Criminal Investigations, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission must investigate any unlawful approvals, ignored warnings, manipulated records, collusion, or corruption connected to unsafe developments. Mtetezi's message today is simple. Buildings do not collapse only because concrete is weak. Buildings collapse because institutions are weak. They collapse because approvals are compromised, because inspections are ignored, because notices are mocked, because profit outruns ethics, and because lives of workers and ordinary Nairobi residents are treated as expendable. Every ignored report is a future death notice. Every filed and forgotten investigation is a silent permit for the next disaster. To the families who have lost loved ones, to the workers who enter unsafe sites because they need to survive, to the residents living in fear beside questionable developments, and to the public that keeps witnessing this cycle of negligence, Mtetezi stands with you. No more collapsing buildings, no more buried reports, no more buried victims. Thank you.
John Joshua, National Coordinator Mtetezi. Today we are here at Westlands, and as Mtetezi, we are here again to remind the Nairobians that we are on our own. The people that we elected, the ineptness in them. I want to ask one in charge governor that we know you came to the public and told us that the system that Nairobi is using, it was one that was built during colonial period. But I'm asking, what about those who are working at the executive level with you? We know one in charge of disaster management is somebody who did theology here at one of our institutions. And we all know that that is a critical docket that does not require somebody who did theology. We've seen people being stuck in the debris because the guy has zero knowledge about what is happening. The other guy who is in urban planning, he did CPA. And we all know that that docket requires somebody who has a background in engineering. These are the people who are making Nairobi, who are approving buildings, because he has no knowledge in engineering. He is improving buildings which are in riparian lands. He is approving buildings which are being built at a drainage system. We know there are several buildings which are at a riparian lands, and they have been approved by those people who are working in your executive. As you are calling you, Bwana Johnson Sakaja, we know that you say these problems are for 100 years plus. But what about those people who have no knowledge? The inept people who are working with you together in the executive. These people have no knowledge in issues of construction. Somebody who did CPA, every time he signs or he approves for a construction, he doesn't care that what he's approving will result to death. We've known for the last 1 week, 3 buildings have collapsed in Nairobi. And it's because of the negligence, the ineptness in those people that you chose to work with. As you're not questioning you as an individual, we are questioning the entire executive, people who are working with, people who belong to J. In fact, since you've been elected, your credentials are unquestionable. So as Mtetezi, what you're asking and what you're telling Nairobians, the people who are working with one governor, those people belong to J. Those people belong to committee. They should not be working in the executive position. The one who is in charge of disaster management, he studied theology. The only thing that we see or where he appears in public is to give people condolence note while people are suffering. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is Makolonde Charles. I'm in charge of research and policy at Mtetezi, and mine will be very brief. And it goes into Access of Information Act, number 21 of 2016, which basically operationalized Article 35 on access of information. And our request and demand to the county government is to release the zoning compliance issues. We want to know the zoning classification of Nairobi. We need that breakdown. Because for instance, if you look behind us, there's a building with more than 20 stories. But within the 10-kilometer radius, there's none above 5 stories. Does it mean that this area, this specific acre, has a different zoning classification than the neighboring areas? So we need to know. And as Mtetezi, so that we avoid these issues, because it is very rare. And since the building started collapsing, it's very rare to see buildings with the less stories collapsing. It's always huge buildings with excess floors, which are collapsing all over Nairobi. So we need that zoning classification, and we need it publicized so that Kenyans themselves can also oversight. Because as my brother has said, the people in charge of those dockets are theologians, are accountants, are people not qualified to actually superintend or oversight the kind of work that is happening around Nairobi. So we are demanding that the zoning classification be made public so that we can peruse and the people themselves can be able to oversight Because when the building collapses, it is the regular Kenyans, it is the hustling Kenyans who die in these kind of tragedies. Thank you, and God bless you.
Ms. Paul Victor, I'm in charge of operation at Mtetezi. I'm also a grassroots social justice crusader. So, once again, we are here to remind the Nairobi leadership that enough is enough. This is not the first press conference we are doing. We have done several. And whatever we have been witnessing is that there are a lot of PR. I saw the other day the government just said, the governor of Nairobi sent few people to Lavington up there just to do some PR activities in the name of clearing riparian land. As we talk, several people are in the mortuaries. Many people are grieving because of the filth, incompetence, and lack of clear structure and policy from the leadership of Nairobi. So we want to call again the Nairobi County government and the national government to act as soon as possible. Because every time, whenever there is a crisis, there is a building that has collapsed, they tell us there is going to be investigation. We have never received any report from the investigation nor action that has been taken. So as Mtetezi, we will always remind them, we will not tire. We will keep on exposing the rot in every sector so that we ensure that we have a proper governance structure. Thank you.